pulling me down like a force I can't explain it. You're wearing me out like a beast I cannot tame ya. Wait a minute, we can work this out. You put me second while I'm going through hell, and we've been at it for hours and hours. What's that look for? You know I'm faded. Talking less and touching more is what we made it. And the sweetness has turned into sour, and my heart sank to the bottom of your ocean, baby. And my heart sank to the bottom of your ocean, baby. And my heart sank to the bottom of your ocean, baby. And my heart sank to the bottom of your ocean, baby. Won't you be mine?
We're live, Dad. We're here.
Okay.
Kia ora.
Okay, put me on the screen there so I can see myself there. Oh, yeah.
Yep, it's coming. Where are we? All right.
What's that look for? You know I'm faded. Talking less and touching more is what we made it. And the sweetness has turned into sour. And my heart sank to
Can you see yourself now, Dad?
Not yet. You haven't got the picture there yet.
Can you not see yourself? I can see you on that screen. What screen is he looking at?
Oh, I don't know. TV screen.
Over here. This
Oh,
one.
yeah, on the right-hand side, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, weird.
Jeez, it's not that big. It makes it like he's on.
Yeah.
Watching it on
Yes,
IMAX or something.
yeah. It's on the...
Oh, he's got the light in front of it. Hang on.
It's what?
Sorry, Fano. New setup tonight. We're out in the workshop, so you can see what Dad's been up to for the last week.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Aroha mai, bear with us.
Are you sure we're on the?
We hit the
we're
ground
on
running
page?
today.
On the personal page.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's on the Tame Iti page.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Top right.
Yeah.
The personal page is Wairere Tame Iti, so
Okay.
no.
Oh,
Yep, we're on the
be
right
still
one.
coming in.
Yeah, I got it there.
Oh, there was about
Nice and
40 there to begin with. We started a bit late, so
Oh yeah.
It dropped off.
Already. Oh well, that's how it goes. Kia ora koutou. Kia ora Māori Mermaid over on Twitch. Tēnā koe hoa. Tashi George. Brian over in the gong. Kia ora Brian.
Yeah, kia ora koutou e kare mā nā rangatira. Kua ui mai nei koutou ki kone i tēnei ahi. I Aotearoa, ki te mira.
Just watch your microphone there, Dad.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, as you can see, we just working on this, having a bit of a hautatu around what we're trying to do. So you can see where the background there, that's all the cutting of it. So we freehand draw and out of that, so we take this, we go to kōrero, and then we cut it to the size of what you got here. So Ati just kind of bring this piece here, just give you an idea. So it's quite a bit of a process, you know, big difference from the canvas. So this is what we come up with. Tēnei, that's all cardboard. You can get these from the shop down the road.
And so just to let people know, Dad, you said you take it out to kōrero and you cut it out of what?
Yeah, there's they cut it with gas cutter. Yeah.
It's cut out
yeah.
of steel.
But so is it
There's
made
steel,
out of cheese?
There's a steel.
Have you been making it out of cheese, Dad?
No, look like it. So we get that all cut up and
It's a trade secret. He's not telling
then
anyone what it's made out of.
it come out like that. So it's the surface.
What is it?
It's a steel.
Ah,
Yeah, it's a steel. So which one the apple? This is apple cider. That one there. So you see how it reacts. It should be able to. What's the other one? What's this one here? What's this mix here?
Salt or copper sulfate.
Oh, copper sulfate.
Yeah, this is copper salt. Just
bring
take
it
your,
up to the camera. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So
Hence why you got all the protective gear on. Looks like you're going to milk some cows.
yeah. Yeah, so you gotta, they're quite paihana, so you can see they start to get the colors on it. It's quite magical, eh?
Yeah, no, it looks great. Yeah, I'll come over to the camera. I'll do a little zoom up on the big fellas, yeah?
Yeah, so doesn't really take long, about 5 or 10 minutes e huama. You see, you already start to get a reaction. So this is a result of it. Yeah, so it was a real nice texture on it. So, and it works on the steel itself. Yeah, so beautiful. Beautiful piece of artwork. So we're gonna do about 100 of those. So we're still experimenting on it. So you can see the same over here. You just put layers and layers, and it's kone nā mahi kone e hoa ma. Yeah. So all from the canvas to the steel. Yeah. So we can move back in there.
Coming back
So
over to the
you
side
take those cardboard pieces.
Hey?
Say again, bro.
now. Oh, sorry. Just apologise to everybody. My camera's having, problems, so I'm a black square at the moment. But I'm hearing voice. Oh, you just be careful of your mic there, Dad.
Oh, yeah.
Just keep that on.
Yeah, no, I am.
Let's just do some shout outs here. Who we got over in Twitch? We've got Tashi George. Oh yeah, we said hi to you, Tashi George. Oh, Pork Bone Kid. Joe Pork Bone. Mama Sue. Kia ora. Jesse Dane, good to see you. But here we kia ora. We've got Kaitiaki o ngā tamariki. Tēnā koe, good to see you again.
Can you give me the mouse there, bro?
Oh, yep, sorry, yep.
Thank you.
Oh, Emily Karaka, there's Emily. Ask Emily if we can talk to her.
Emily Karaka?
Yeah.
Who are you seeing her?
She's a David of Colin McCann. And Robin, oh no, that's Mihira Fiti something. Yeah,
Not even.
not even.
I'm going, where are you? Kia ora, Mahida Awhiti.
Yeah. Oh well, kia ora koutou. We e mihi kau tana ia koutou. Yeah. So you can see what we've been up to, and Ati and I, and what we're doing here at the meetup. So we are still exploring those potential, working on the steel. I'm quite excited about it. There's going to go down to Pōneke, also going to go to an exhibition at for Matariki in Tauranga. I think around about June. Not too far away, just around the corner. So with Joe and Black, Mao and Whirimako Black. And so there's a big event there in Tauranga. As you know, the government opened up there. It's an outside event. It's all unlimited numbers of people, but still inside there, about 200, so will be good. Yeah. So kia ora kia koutou. Yeah. And our manuhiri tonight is we will be talking to James Boynton, a known artist who have been exhibiting for a while down in Pōneke. And he also had some work exhibit over in Beijing last year. And him, myself, and many other artists exhibit in Beijing last year or the year before last. I can't remember. The time moves so fast. So it'll be a good chat with him. Yeah, he's a local boy. He's a local guy from Tuhoi. And I can't remember what his other connections. But he'll talk about it to us tonight. James Boynton. Yeah, that's my kōrero for now.
Is he coming in, Dad, or are we sending him a link?
I sent you his phone number.
Oh, okay. Does he know that he's on?
Yeah, at 6:30.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Pop him through a...
Oh, Jamie Boynton.
Jamie.
Yeah.
Jamie.
So ever been through the Awanui-a-Rani? You see his manu in the front of the Awanui-a-Rani. The boat.
How are you getting on there, bro?
Well, sometimes you're just a black box. You just got to roll with it.
Is your camera on?
No, I'm just allowing it to sort of get some pre-charge. I think it must have been just too close to the line. Sometimes with these devices, you plug it in. It's not a plug-in kind of go sort of situation. Depends on the battery. If the battery's too close to being dead, it's constantly drawing from the battery,
right,
and you're charging the battery as you go rather than connecting directly to the AC. That's what I feel like is going on. Because it was plugged in. And yeah.
Okay.
But I'm happy chilling here in the dark for the moment.
Okay, well, let me see if I can get Jamie on the hizzle.
Yeah, that's it. A couple of sulfate. And a good bleach.
What, the copper sulfate? Yes, kaitiaki o ngā tamariki. I am up in Tamaki now. I came back from Whakatane in the weekend, and I'm spending the week up here before going back down to Tamita for next week to help Dad with the with everything that's going on down there. Yeah, the whole stream is feeling a bit glitchy tonight. Tussie George there saying she loves science. Is that because of the copper sulfate, is it? Yes, no, Toy can't sit next to me this evening. So, actually, bro, you could chuck in that other camera from the other machine.
I'm just turning this one on and let's see how we go. Oh.
Really?
Yeah, that's looking a little bit better. Hey, I'm back. Let's turn these lights down. It's a bit bright.
Yes.
After the dark. How you doing, bro? How's Tamaki?
What have you been doing this week?
What I've been doing this week. I've been writing proposals, trying to find money to pay for all of this crazy art. You know,
Sure.
we all got our different roles, different jobs. Takes a village. Because I've been.
Yeah, we had that wicked.
What's that?
We had that wicked thunderstorm up here this week, and just all the flooding.
Wet.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Hope everybody got their crops in before the big rain came. This is the model of. Oh, am I still going?
Hang on, let me.
All of the steel. How we're going to kind of line it up. Which way am I going? This way. You know, it's a very rough model. That's how we're going to kind of stack them up in an anamorphic kind of way. And then you can see, like, you can kind of see how the light, you know, there's a lot of shadows that are cast and bits and pieces as well. So, yeah. Good times. I tell you, it's going to be heavy, though, because what you can't probably tell from the TV screen or the computer screen or your phone is that each of those fellas is like 70 to 80 kilos. So yeah, they're not light.
Not sure why we can't see our Twitch comments on screen. Okay, I'll fix that in a minute. Yeah, there is a little bit of our studio lighting has some color in it, so there is a little bit of purple, a little bit of blue.
Purple haze.
Right, so I am trying to get hold of Jamie.
Hey, so you're off to a wedding, my bro, this weekend?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's the bro Tikitani is marrying his wahine.
So I can
Will they
can't hear,
be
can't
getting
hear you
married
well, my bro. You
together?
might have to come to the mic.
Oh, check. Wadzoo. Yes, going to the bro Tikitani's wedding this tomorrow night, and or through the weekend. So that's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of friends, a lot of loved ones there.
Just in the nick of time with the mandates being lifted.
Yes. Well, I think that was a thing. Yep, I think that was a thing. I think there was a reduced number. Well, that's why he had it spread over a couple of days, I think, to accommodate, the restriction on 100. And so, but now that's been lifted. So, yeah.
Yeah, so they don't
Weddings
have
are
numbers now,
it'll be nice. Yeah.
which I'm sure everybody will be happy about. Everyone's happy the goddamn mandates have been lifted a little bit.
Okay, that's sense. Right. Yeah, it's been hopefully the weather, I don't know if the weather's going to be that great. So and I think isn't there some kind of cyclone hitting the east coast as well?
There's totally a storm warning coming up for like Hawke's Bay and
Yeah, right. Are they telling you to turn your mic up there, bro? Look.
yeah, I don't seem to be able to like the sound's quite, the music's quite loud on my cans at the moment. I can't seem to move it.
You're actually on channel 2 tonight.
Ah, that's what it is. Okay. It's
Yep.
a bit better. No, not that low.
Okay, you take it.
That's better.
Is that the painting you were trying to auction off last week, Dad?
Yeah.
Oh well. Lucky you didn't, eh?
Oh yeah. Hey, so we should thank everyone that that bid for the painting that was where all the proceeds were going to the Middlemore Hospital burn unit.
National Burn Unit. Yeah.
Yep. So that actually got sold. Are we allowed to say how much it got sold for?
Yeah. 10K. 10K we raised
Yeah.
for the
So that's sold for-
Burns unit. It's
Yeah.
pretty solid.
So thank you to everyone that that bid on that and yeah, going to a good cause.
It was ended up being a local who won the auction. And actually, so she's wanting to come over to my dad to come over and pick it up.
Okay.
Pick up her new painting. And she just felt compelled and had quite a connection to it.
Wow. She had to come in the afternoon because we'll be at Korero.
Oh yes, in the afternoon, between 2 and 3, she wants to pop over.
Yeah.
So that's good. Was my mic a bit low there, Cuz? I don't know.
Yeah, he was saying it was a bit low.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we've got
so
Jamie's
she was
just coming to the.
yeah,
Just saying.
the person
You go ahead, bro. But Jamie's just arrived.
Oh, cool. No, the person who won the auction had a conversation with them, and they just had a real connection with it, and actually want to have a conversation like after they won the auction, and they said they were thinking about it, and they were like, man, it's such a beautiful piece. They sort of feel, even though they've won the auction and they're paying for it, and that money is going to the Burns unit, they're going, oh, why do I get to just enjoy this? And they want to have a conversation about how they can publicly display it or something like that, because they want everybody to be able to enjoy the painting. So, hey, just generosity all round. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I thought, I told them that we can have a conversation about how that could be a possibility, how that could be done.
Man,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bring Jamie in. Just sort that out there. Kia ora, Jamie.
Kia ora.
Jamie, kia ora, bro.
Kia ora māpau. Ngā mihi ki a koe e hoa. Tā rau mai nei kiru nei te mira. And our live show tonight. Kia ora te whanauna o te waimana kāku, tūhoi, te uri wera. Tama kai moana, nā hapu katoa. E mihi kaua sanei ki a koe e hoa. So thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, aua mai for the last minute call, but kai te pai. Yeah.
Wera watu, ka hoki te mihi atu ki a koe, uncle. Kia ora, kia ora.
Yeah. I know just, and I'm assuming a lot of people know who you are, but tell us about you, what you've been up to.
Well, there's a lot to tell. I turned 50 this year, so I'll just start at the beginning and just give you a brief introduction for those who don't really know who I am and the mahi that I do, I suppose. I'm of Tūhoe descent and I live in Opotiki. My mother is and was foot of the leaders, my mother. Portuguese. I also have whakapapa connections to whakatōhea te whānau apanui through my great-grandmother, Didi Koka. So, but I wasn't born and raised here. So mum and dad met. I think dad had a motorbike accident and met mum in the hospital. She was a trainee nurse back in the day, and they ended up getting work down country near Hunterville, if anyone knows where that is. And I was actually born and raised on a large sheep and cattle station, just in the back blocks of Hunterville. So rangatike, it was very isolated, and that was really kind of an environment that fostered my art and my creativity, because there wasn't a hell of a lot else to do in a very isolated environment. It's probably not that different to living in Ruatahuna or something like that. You know, it's we're very rural. We're living off the land mostly. Cows, chickens, everything, and lots of dogs and lots of sheep and lots of cattle and lots of mahi. So lots of time in shearing sheds. Hard work growing up, working the land, and just helping out where I could as a young fellow growing up. Dad was in charge of, so the sheep and cattle station we grew up on was about 12,000 acres, so it was a huge range, and we did a lot of work on horseback, so breaking horses and riding horses, saddling them and heading out early in the morning to muster sheep and cattle, and it was a cowboy's lifestyle, really. So I was Tūhoe without living in Tūhoe, I guess.
Yeah.
I know that feeling.
And you know, not a lot of cultural exposure either. So the only Tūhoe I got was from Dad, basically, and his philosophy was, well, you know, you have to live in the modern world and you need to get educated in the Western way of being educated. So that was his focus for us. And so I went to I got sent to a prep school for posh boys, pretty much, and when I was Huntley near Martin.
Oh yeah.
And we played against Scots and Kittyworth and all sorts of, flash schools around the country, in cricket and rugby mostly. And I made the second 15. wasn't great at cricket, but yeah, that was actually really interesting because I got exposed to a lot of positivity in that environment, which is kind of like a private school environment with, you know, with really good teachers and good structure and it's really well sort of we were well looked after. And then I went to boys' high school, so I was boarding at boys' high school in Palmerston North for 5 years, and I just loosely refer to that as a school of hard knocks. And it was tough being a Māori boy in a sea of vanilla, especially at that time. You know, institutional racism. I'm sure we've all experienced that to different degrees, but it was pretty intense there for me. And I got through there and came out with quite a few scars, really, in terms of just my own perspective of myself and how I thought of myself as a Māori, and really not knowing much about my tikanga, not much about where I come from, and just feeling quite unsteady about my own identity at that time. So, you know, I was a school prefect and I played first 15 rugby, and aspects of it were enjoyable, but generally it was pretty tough going for me for most of the time.
Jamie, was there a you know, through that time, you know, the picture that forms in my head, which is, you know, you're quite isolated, I guess, like you're saying, you're one of the few Māoris in a sea of, you know, Palmerston North, traditionally known as a bit of a farming town. So, you know, it's probably quite white.
Yeah, lots of farm boys.
Yeah, and then, and so, how were your whānau? How were mum and dad around, you know, that sort of situation as well?
Well, really, you know, they weren't aware of what I was going through, because you don't talk about that stuff. That was the culture, you know. You just suck it up, tough it out, and just get hard, you know. It's pretty much the culture. And so, you know, I suppose I grew quite a shield around me through that period, and it took quite a while to sort of break that down and sort of you know, I had some very hard attitudes towards certain things that have no place in this world today, you know. So yeah, it was interesting, the sort of conditioning that you get exposed to in those environments, to, you know, the culture of sort of go along to get along and all that sort of thing. So even though, you know, it actually pushed me towards my Māori culture. So I have that to thank for it, because at the end of all of that, I had so many questions about being Māori and the way I was treated because of my Māori heritage. And of course, my mother's Pākehā, so I actually am standing somewhere in the middle. I'm bridging two worlds, and that's never easy. So, but you just sort of like bump your way through life, and you sort of start figuring things out as you get along. And I think I had probably an awakening through my mid to late 20s regarding culture and the system and just the way things are in the world. You know, I thought everything was ideally kind of equal, but I kind of realized it wasn't really an equal playing field out there. And I took a greater interest in Māori well-being, and what does that mean? What does that look like? And after leaving boys' high school, I applied for design school in Wellington, and thankfully my parents moved to Wellington, and we're working on a smaller farm, which is 2,000 acres, just on the edge of Mana Island there on the mainland, and looking down on Mana Island. So what an incredible place to be. It was, you know, powers for Africa, and even though the weather was terrible in Wellington, you can't beat it on a good day. And, you know, we were in a really spectacular place. So I had the best of both worlds. I could still ride my horse to the high paddock and see out over the Southern Alps and all the way to Taranaki and Ruapehu on a clear day. It's just incredible to have all of that right on the doorstep of where I was studying at design school, which was also an absolute revelation for me, because I kind of found my tribe just like-minded people, all into the visual arts, and I'm swept up in the energy that was design school. Was a fabulous place to be.
Which design school did you go to?
Wellington School of Design. So at that time it was with Victoria, and then it switched to Massey, and I think part of it's now back with Victoria. So different parts of design school sort of like chopped and changed over the years. But yeah, Wellington School of Design, I basically refer to it.
Right. Someone's asking a question here in the comments, Plimerton or Tētahi Bay?
Tētahi Bay.
Tētahi Bay. Oh, yep.
Aye.
Okay, yes. And so in... What's that?
Korero Street, the top.
Okay. So you're in Opotiki at the moment, eh?
Aye.
You got some
Opotiki
broadband there.
Broadband. Yeah.
Yes, I do. It's probably my kids playing on the internet or something.
Oh,
that'll do it too.
Competing with the bandwidth with the gaming, huh? And the Netflix.
Yes.
Classic.
I don't seem to be.
I remember talking to you when I first met you. It was at there was an art exhibition somewhere actually, and you were talking about your design work, and one thing that stood out, hey, this was a few years back, and I remember it still, that you felt like if you could get through your art career without drawing a kōrero, you were doing really well.
Actually, I don't recall that. I don't know, because I've drawn so many kōreros. And they're always different. It's so hard to get them kind of, just because I'm a real perfectionist with my kōreros and pretty much everything that I do. So sometimes I spend hours just drawing just a basic form like that.
And so you're working from Opotiki at the moment, and the type of work that you're doing, is it stuff that you're exhibiting, or are you how are you kind of keeping food on the table? Does it work as an artist?
It's such a challenging time, isn't it, for everyone with COVID, and the economy's sort of really getting a shake up. So I've had, and dare I say it, I'm not vaccinated. So I've had to let go of projects with the schools in particular. So that's been really difficult to actually swallow, because I really disagree with that, with our government stand and the way that they're directing, just managing the process. I don't agree with the way that they're doing it. Really, I think that everyone should have the choice to choose, the opportunity to choose their own forms of rongoa, basically. That's tapu to me.
So you and your whānau, anyway, you and your whānau aren't vaccinated, didn't get the vaccines?
No. But my eldest girl, she had the choice, and she chose not to. But it's not a decision that we've made lightly, and it's not a decision that we've made just overnight. We've been working with natural health and wellbeing for almost 20 years now, and my wife's been a natural health practitioner, so we're informed in other ways and means of supporting our immune system. So that's, I whether you want to, it's not happy that we're being sort of pigeonholed into an area where some of us are very well-being, and I don't think it's necessary, particularly when you look at what's happened with vaccines and the fact that they haven't been as successful. They're not the magic bullet that supposedly they were supposed to be. And there's just other options out there that haven't been explored. And I'm particularly upset with our media, because they haven't really presented those alternatives. They've just shown protesters as just lunatics and crazy people, but there are many narratives within that group, and they all have valid stories. So You know, yeah, our media, I think, has upset me the most through this process.
We've certainly had some.
That's COVID.
We've had some vigorous debates here on this stream, and have actually invited some of the more vocal anti-mandate people to come on. And so I'm glad you brought this up, bro, because it's good that you, because my experience of you is that you are a well-reasoned person, and I'm sure you did not make these decisions lightly for you and your family. And so it's good to have a conversation, because we made another decision with regards to Dad getting vaccinated because of his diabetes, and we've all got him vaccinated, and I'm certainly happy that the mandates are getting pulled back now, and that hopefully that does ease some of the pressure for those who have decided not to get vaccinated for whatever reason, because you are right, and we've always said that through the whole thing, that kei ia tangata te whakaaro, te haerenga, that each person gets to make that decision, especially around putting things in your body. But of course, what came with it is certain restrictions, and I've always said that when it comes to setting public health policy, you have to look at data and numbers rather than anecdotal individual circumstances. And I guess I have, in my experience with local government now, understand that, or have a greater appreciation for some of those hard decisions around that. And we may disagree on that, and it's okay for us to disagree, and for us to respect that we have different thoughts on that without having to attack each other. But certainly I agree with you that there was representation down in Wellington and across the country with regards to the anti-mandate protests from people who were genuinely impacted in their jobs, in their ability to be able to put food on the table, and whether it's teachers or police or whoever, or who were impacted. And so they should have a right to be able to voice that anger and that mamai in a constructive way. We certainly discussed that it became really muddy with certain elements that were there, and and I've said it on here too on the stream that I too was disappointed in mainstream media. I thought that their coverage was really two-dimensional and was really didn't really go that deep. There was certainly a painting of that they're just crazies and lunatics, and the truth is there are crazy and lunatics, and there is with any sort of protest movement. There can always be the fringe, and there was that element. There was the really difficult part was there are those like the counterspin media guys, the Calvin Alps kind of personalities, and that imported, organized, structured disinformation campaign that's come over from the States. That was certainly very, very present, and that certainly muddied the waters, and it's very difficult to pull them apart from that. But no, kia ora, bro. Thank you for bringing that up and having that kōrero with us. So, how do you feel now?
Yeah, like I said, cousins, it was we made this decision about vaccines almost 20 years ago when our first child was born. So, we're just holding our line basically, and of having looked at the science and so much of recent COVID, I'm still really about our status. But kai a koe tikana mō tō whānau me au hoki. It's just I think what I have difficulty with is just people being forced into one paradigm, and the choice to me is paramount, and that's all to do with our own rangatiratanga, our own freedom to choose, to me, has always been paramount and should never be. I understand that there are many dangers out there, but then again, I've done so much research around this particular subject, and I'm not some Johnny come lately to vaccines. And in fact, if people want to check out, I would recommend Bruce Lipton's work on the biology of belief and epigenetics. Really amazing work. So that completely changed my view on so many of these interventionist sort of approaches to health and well-being. So yeah, check it out.
Interesting.
Interventionist
I guess the other thing that happens is you talk about sort of, through policy, you end up being corralled into a choice, and the other thing, the sort of thing that happens, because of the choice that you've made, you then get corralled into being a specific type. So you say the choice that we've made is that we've decided to be, me and my family have decided to not get vaccinated. And these are the reasons. We've got our reasons, and we understand that there are alternatives. And the truth is, alternatives have been out there within our culture for a long time in terms of our rongoa and what we're doing. But it's interesting that what I guess has happened, particularly with reasonable, those ones that we find that we can have a reasonable discussion with around anti-vaccination, around unvaccinated, is you get kind of tarred with this brush of an anti-vaxxer. And there is a negative connotation to that. And so suddenly you've been
associated
corralled
with the nuts.
Yeah. You've been corralled into this thing again. So not only are you being sort of restricted and pushed into this thing, you're now being pushed into this other box as being an anti-vaxxer, without being able to have a reasonable discussion. And it's a shame, because I guess what the bro's saying as well is that, sometimes we've been on here and it's just been us, and we've been kind of saying our stuff, and we haven't had an opportunity to talk to somebody like yourself that might, that has an alternative view on it, or not even an alternative view. Like, I feel like we kind of see each other. It's just that we have an
I respect your view, and I respect your right to choose your medicine.
Yeah. That's right. But I guess the thing is that it's an alternative experience, and that's actually what it is that, because a lot of the stuff that was coming from that was coming towards Dad and us, I guess, at that point, which was, you got vaccinated, so you are this. You're buying into the mainstream media. We're like, no, we're not. We know better than anyone how
messed up and
inaccurate.
biased.
Yeah. So why would you think, because we're vaccinated, that we would buy into that? And so it's the same thing the other way, isn't it? It's like, you're unvaccinated, but it doesn't mean that you're anti-vax or that you're this. It's just a choice that you've made, and these are the alternatives that you felt that you can move towards. So it's that's where I think we start to deconstruct. Once you kind of get into these things, it's like, oh yeah, no, just because we're vaccinated doesn't mean we're kupapa or sellouts or all this kind of stuff, which started to come through just because of that. So
there certainly are still some pinch points, though. There are some, for mandates, for example. I am totally supportive of the fact that there had to be some kind of measures put into place and decisions and that those measures put into place are rationale, like I said before, on and it is a particular thinking, it is a particular paradigm, but for one of the factors too that we decided to go with the vaccines is Dad's experience and our community's experience with influenza and the unmarked mass graves that we still know where those unmarked mass graves are, where people were buried, masses of people were buried, where there were tangi every day because our communities got smashed by influenza. And when you are looking at the collective and you're looking at the capacity of your health system, because I'm certainly not an expert. And so it comes down to actually where do we delegate our trust to with regards to making these kinds of really big decisions, really complex decisions. And, I don't have the experience or the expertise or the time to become an expert in a short amount of time to be able to really, you do have to pass some of those things on, and you have to trust that there are enough people in the room to be making decisions that are for the benefit of the majority of New Zealanders, of Māori, of the citizens. Do I think they got it completely right? No, I do not. But I certainly cannot think of anybody else, kind of whether it's Judith Collins or another politician and the kinds of policies that they would roll out. If I look around, I go, is there somebody else that would have done a better job? I don't know. You look around the world and you look at the difference in the death tolls and the infection rates, and they're talking about flattening the curve. I mean, I think I'm fairly well informed, but I'm not the brightest person in the room. I'm not the smartest, and so you're trying to weigh these things up with knowing that mainstream media, like Wairere said, we've got a big experience with mainstream media being lazy, being biased, and having one particular cultural lens. But at the end of the day, I had to agree with the mandates as they were, as a measure to try to protect as many people as possible. Because I know in our small village of Ruatoki, everybody was trying to take steps to keep it out. We put up borders, and we were like, because we worry about our kaumatua and about others. And so that coming from that position of not just around, because we were all impacted, we all, were locked up for a while, and everybody has been impacted. But in terms of health policy and what they said, I kind of scratch my head and I go, it's easy from the cheap seats to go, they should have done this and they should have done that, but not until you're actually making those decisions. And I know this from my experience at regional council now, when you're in the hot seat and you need to make those decisions, and you need to listen to the experts of the day, and you listen to a range of advice, and they, even within their own caucus, I'm sure they had varying expert opinion. And so they would have had to have measured that against a lot of things and made these decisions. So I can't, this is where it gets messy for me when certain groups say, it's just the government trying to be controlling, or I can't, I can't quite swallow that.
Let me speak to that.
Yeah.
Because, early data showed that there were certain groups that were more in danger than other groups, and young people, school-age kids, even people up to the age of 65, generally that demographic was pretty resilient to COVID. And, the high threat areas were actually elderly or over 65s, and those with comorbidities. So as far as I could see it, they should have actually been focusing on those groups with vaccine rollouts, and offering those to whoever felt that they needed those, and just let everyone else get on with their lives. And because demographically, if you look at statistically, there are actually low death rates within my demographic, with my children and that sort of thing. So, and also the fact that there's still so many unknowns about the vaccine in terms of its long-term effect, and whether or not that might actually be detrimental to health. And that's my perspective, to be honest, is that the more injections with the spike protein that we get, the more it's going to undermine our DNA. So that's just my personal opinion. But
Sure.
So but
It's the
again,
epigenetical part, isn't it?
I think. Well, the spike protein is designed to enter the cell and actually attach itself to your RNA and rewrite your RNA in order to reproduce itself. Now that's designed to engender immune response in your cell. But if you're continuously whacking your immune system with spike protein that's actually quite nasty, eventually your immune system may capitulate and then be overrun by your own RNA. So there's an inherent danger with that, from what I can see. I'm not a doctor, but I don't think I'm a stupid person, and I've done a lot of research on this stuff. So, and following epigenetics as well, that sort of helps me understand this.
So why do you think they made the decision that they made to roll this particular vaccine out then?
Because I think Big Pharma had the silver bullet, and they felt that they could take care of it. But for me, it's sort of like, well, we're using the same system it's kind of like we're creating Frankenstein's creating another monster to defeat the original monster that Frankenstein created. If you believe that that COVID was, came from a lab in Wuhan that specializes in coronaviruses, that was actually sponsored by the American government to produce coronaviruses and to test gain of function research. So what's the chances that it's come from there, or it's just leapt out of bats? I think there's probably a 95% chance that it's come from the Wuhan lab of virology. So, to me, that's just obvious. But and you can't be absolute about it. Nobody can. But what are the chances that it's something else? There's more of a chance that it's come from that lab than anywhere else. So,
do you think it's even if it was in that lab, do you think it was incompetence that it got out of the lab, or do you think it was? Do you head down the road that it was purposefully let out of the lab?
I think it's a bioweapon. It's constructed to be a bioweapon. But whether it was released on purpose or not, who really knows? But I think it's interesting timing with look, what country's not bankrupt these days? Do they need a distraction to sort of like shift people's focus onto something else? I don't know.
I don't know. I think if you head down,
this is just keeping more into conspiracy. But I think you could probably hang your hat on the fact that it came from that lab, and so just to continue that conversation, the vaccine is kind of like a quick fire cure-all that looked good on paper, but in reality hasn't really lived up to what Pfizer said it would do, and because we shouldn't be needing any boosters if it's done what it's supposed to be doing. There's just so many inconsistencies around the science and the principles. For me, it's all very questionable science. But again, it's just me and sitting. And I just want the ability to choose for myself. I don't. Any people who want to choose that for themselves and they feel safe doing that, then who am I to say don't go there? Because I'm just one voice. But this, my rangatiratanga, my ability to have autonomy, authority over my own body is sacrosanct, and for my children. So. Yeah, and there's I suppose there's an old kind of thing about like when genetic engineering first became a thing of food, there was a big push from Māoridom against that, against the introduction of genetic engineering in our food. But now we're allowing it in our medicines, and my personal belief is that Papatūānuku has everything that we need. We just need to align ourselves more to nature and those natural principles to achieve optimum health and well-being.
I mean, without a doubt, there's definitely, I think, there is a better way to live. There is a better way for our society to exist if it was a society that was based on values, more than based on capitalism or commercialism, and so, I do like I struggle with the it's obvious that it came out of a lab out of Wuhan, like for myself. That's not as obvious to me as it is to you. So it's like, and it is I tend to lean on the human nature and the you know, I understand the difference between the system and the way that it's perpetuated, and then but it's also built on human beings who are imperfect, and also the fact that the science is imperfect, I think is a known fact. It's like what we know today is different to in how we may have dealt with everything we've experienced about COVID today. And if we could take that back and reapply it to the first day that COVID came, what would have changed based on what we know now?
I think the debate's still running.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually didn't have a problem with flattening the curve. I thought actually that was quite a good strategy, and so I was quite happy to sit through the first lockdown, and I thought that maybe that was the best time to get their strategy really in order, and so they made that decision to go in the direction they've gone from that point. But there were indicators and people within their inner circles advising them differently. But you know, I think really they lent on the pharmaceutical company who probably said, you know, look, we've got the answer. We can fix this for you. So that
was during a time when everyone was freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, everyone's freaking out about it. Yeah, and so you can understand the fear.
Yeah,
well, we all felt it.
Yeah, and then I guess that, and I guess how that strategy and how those responses adapted to, you know, circumstances that were ultimately, you know, no one had really dealt with, or we're looking at history, we're looking for the answers to. And then as we kind of know 2.5 years in now, everyone's kind of a bit fatigued by the whole thing. And it's like, you know, oh my God, what do you mean I can't work now if I get this? And there's been some really heartbreaking stories of you know, people who've had the vaccination and had some kind of reaction, died. There's been some form of, you know, real impact health-wise in terms of getting the vaccination, and you can't minimize that stuff without a doubt, you know. And it's just, and like Toy was saying earlier, you know, you've got these tensions because you've got these people's experience with the vaccination and how that's starting to affect their wider whānau, but then you've got the whānau who have had deaths from the virus. And so there's this constant tension between these two things. And I don't know, I don't know if it's, and this again, this is just about sort of how I resolve it in myself, and it's my opinion, but you know, and I have to use a logic around how the government's responding to it as being imperfect. We know that it's imperfect. It may be weighted towards big pharma because that's their safety, because their values-based system isn't the same as ours, and that's, you know, it needs to do better. Yes, it does. You know, it could have done better, but it's always going to be in hindsight. So yeah, so that's always going to be a tricky one, I think, to reconcile, particularly with the difference in opinions around what could happen. And I think you're right in terms of how we talk about it, and how, you know, I think the main thing here, and something that we noticed with everyone, is ensuring that when we were getting things coming from Wellington, is once it's all said and, you know, there's some nasty stuff that's done, actually at the end of the day, we have to be able to bring people back together and kind of, they're still our aunties and uncles and our nephews and our cousins, you know, and we can't just let this whole thing rest on a bunch of crazy, you know, arguments that we had with one another, just to, at this time of extreme pressure, of extreme everything, you know.
Yeah, I've found it extremely difficult just to hold my place, just to be me. and not buckle under the pressure to capitulate under that regime, because everyone's got bills to pay. We've got families. I've got 2 children that I need to feed in school, and I've got rent to pay. So so it was no small decision to say no, and because everything was up in the air at that time. So I'm talking about just before Christmas, when the mandates were coming in, and having to make a very difficult decision then, because I didn't know whether I'd have any income this year, and then maybe we'd be out on the, maybe I'm moving in with my folks or something.
Have you been able to access some of the? Have you been able to access some of the lost salary, lost earnings things through MCA?
Yeah. So I've lost my mahi with kura. The work that I've been doing with kura, I built a waka with Whakatane High School last year, and I call it the Waka Project. And so basically, I sort of get the kids to help do a little bit of designing. We assemble, build the waka together. We go out and test it and sail it, and basically it's sort of a learning platform focused around the taiao, but brings into one umbrella, all of our traditions around navigation and sailing, and it's just been a great project, but I've had to cease that. I've been asked to build a waka with the kids up in Tauranga, at one of the schools there, so I've had to sort of let go of that, and this was just gaining momentum, and I think it's got a lot of legs, but I'm hoping to sort of pick that up again next year. Part of what I'm trying to create actually is an Indigenous Design Institute somewhere locally within the Eastern Bay of Plenty, looking at sustainable processes and principles for building houses, building waka, and other sort of functional art, basically, is where I'm angling everything. And this is, part of what's inspired me from Te Ao Māori is everything had a function, and it looked beautiful as well. So I think this is the way we should be thinking into the future, not just pure function, but function can sort of expand way beyond just a home to live in. It can be a beautiful environment, and so I'm looking at off-grid whares that are affordable, and are made with rammed earth, and sourcing local sort of produce in order to build those things. So sourcing wood locally and that sort of thing. So hopefully, I'll be able to build an example of what a sustainable home should look like, and use that as my studio, and then part and people as well, in order to roll this out hopefully in the future. So I'm just putting together my concepts for that whare, and I'm looking for a place to build it actually. So
cool.
Got any ideas? So we've got some whenua up at Waimana that we might utilise. I don't know.
Yeah,
you'll have to
any
get up to the kākua and have a conversation with the rallies.
No, we got the pointing got whenua all the way up to Waimana, to Tiaki Paihana, Tauwhere Mānuka. There's some good land up there, right up in Tauwhere Mānuka. You follow yourself a kapapa to there, as you know.
It's a long way up.
Of course.
Beautiful. I'd like the studio. I'd like the studio to be sort of like fairly central, so that I can have access to all our local Eastern Bay schools, and just work with our rangatahi and mentor them, and perhaps support them on their pathways to greater things, not only within the arts, but just this holistic way of looking at living and being. So Part of the philosophy is manaki whenua, manaki tangata haere whakamua. So first we actually nurture the whenua. That's our primary objective, and in doing that we nurture ourselves. So and we move forward together by creating a shared vision. So that's where the art comes into it. So yeah, I've used art and design all my life as a form of visioning and a way of trying to sort of read between lines and sort of see sort of project new futures, that sort of thing.
Cool.
Well, I'm sure they'll be beautiful, bro. You're you know, like you said, you are a perfectionist, and your production value when you do your mahi is incredibly high. So, and there's some beautiful uku whare uku. There's, you know, from around the world, you see some of the mahi those artisans are doing, where they around the floors, the clay floors as well, and the colors that they use, and the design. You build stunning homes, and you know, we do need to find
nothing.
What's that?
Costs nothing.
Sweat equity.
Oh, just hard work.
Just hard work. Sweat equity.
Yeah, hard work.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's nothing for nothing. There's always, you know, you share all of those, you know, your creativity, you know, and even that is a conversation. You know, getting the uku, the dirt, and having those conversations where those resources come from, and having those sort of types of conversations. And there's a lot of kōrero around there too, my bro. And I know that in Ruatoria, they've been running a program around there, and they've been, that fellow Stevens, Grant Stevens, and he's the guy. They've been running those types of work. Yeah, they've been going for hundreds of years. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, they've been doing it in Africa for, that's Grant talks about that, you know, for generations and generations. Hey, just quickly, I'm just going to give a shout out to Too Slick over on Twitch for your tier 1 sub, bro. Thank you very much. Thank you for the support.
I just thought it was funny. I thought it'd be funny actually, just like, you know, Jamie. It's like here we are talking about vaccinations and stuff like that, but clay floors, nah, fuck that, man. That's it. We're over. Who fucking likes clay floors? Nah, that's where I draw the line. You know what I mean? And that's how absurd it can be. Like sometimes when you're talking to people about their stuff, it's like it doesn't define you. This stuff, you know, the vaccination or not the vaccination. What defines you is the, you know, the aroha and the stuff that you're putting into the rangatahi to grow something, and, you know, and the art and the creativity. That's the thing. It's not this stuff that's around us right now, you know. So
and that is, you know, finding those. I think, you know, you were saying earlier, Wairere, about how do we find ways to come back together, to find ways forward, and we do need to, you know, we may not agree on certain health policy, well, you know, but we all do agree that each person should have the right to put into their body what they want to put into their body. Yeah. I mean, I'm very liberal when it comes to that. I'm like, if somebody wants to become well, I am. I think you should decriminalize all drugs. I think if people are heroin addicts, instead of persecuting the person, you should be wrapping other aroha around them. Because obviously the addiction is the issue, you know, them trying to get away from whatever emotional issues they're having is the issue. To criminalize them over what is, you know, a drug. I would like to know what's in the drugs that, and so, you know, people are taking. And so that's really great that now at festivals you can test those drugs. So I'm very liberal about what people can make the decision to put or not put into their bodies. If you, so we can agree on that, and we can agree that everyone should have that right. In terms of health policy, we may differ. And then other subjects we may completely differ, you know. You may be like, no, you must be monogamous. No, you should have the right not to be monogamous, you know, whatever. But there's certain things that we can agree on. Yeah. And
you must be this gender.
Gender, you know, that's another thing. There's lots of things that are still debatable. Having a space
Well,
where
I
you
still
can have that
think gender's
conversation.
personal. Yeah, like the same with the way you take your medicines. You know, if you want to be a certain gender, that's your own business, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't really want to know, to be honest. Unless you want me to treat you a certain way, then you need to tell me how best I can sort of serve you in that respect, because I don't want to respect anybody regarding identity. But I think LGBTQ is really just a personal choice, and it should remain that, unless you're on the inner circle and you're either qualified to discuss these things, or you're whānau or something, you know. But for me to again to force the way I think about other people onto them is just not correct. So,
which has been done.
Yeah,
which has been done, right? So there has been their identity mandates have been in place for a long time, you know, and it's only now that we're starting to break free of that, you know, through you know. So no, I understand what you're saying, bro, completely. It was probably a red herring, me throwing gender in there, particularly in terms of what we're talking about, because
it's interesting. Yeah.
But oh, bro, well, thanks for coming to hang out with us and just have a kōrero. It's been good. It's been good.
Really enjoyed this.
Yeah, no, we weren't expecting the COVID conversation, but we're thankful.
Me neither.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Eho.
But I mean, you know, as artists, we got to address these. You know, I think if we're doing our job properly, we need to be looking at these straight in the face, and really, it's just, you know, conversation can't hurt, can it?
You know, constructive, reasonable conversation. But you know, it's been shown lately that can be quite difficult, and it can be quite, you know, there's a lot of divisiveness in our society. There are some actors who do seek to divide us. You know, and they're just got to be taken into account. But you know, finding good quality, I guess, ways to have conversation and kōrero, or trying to find ways forward. Nah, that can't hurt. It can only but help. But sometimes you got to have difficult conversations. You know, there's no doubt about that. Hey, if we go back to our kōrero or the nehe rā of, you know, the wehenga, for example, those were difficult conversations. You know, Tāwhiri Mātea certainly didn't agree with the outcome in the end and raged against it. So there's certainly within our own creation stories, our own whakaaro, our own perspectives on life, there is already had this conversation around, hey, these things can get difficult and can sometimes turn to war. But that's us as the human race, I guess.
One thing I love about our two-boy culture is those mavericks, and we got one online at the moment. But you know, it's to me those people are actually really inspiring. So and it's often posthumously that they get recognised for their brilliance, but not always, thankfully.
Oh, kia ora, bro. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Best to you and your whānau.
Likewise, and good to see you fellas. Be well, and much respect to you all. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to catch up with you guys again sometime. I look forward to it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nā mihi. Yeah.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Oh, well, there you go, whānau. Lots of conversations out there in the comment section with everybody, you know, some agreeing with Jamie on some things, and then others vehemently opposed to some of Jamie's comments, and you know, that's the kind of forum
there was some of the stuff he was saying. I think people like genuinely are challenged by some of the stuff, but that's kind of the point, whānau, right? It's the point is to be able to, you know, breathe it in, like Dad says. Yeah, breathe it in and breathe out, and just kind of and have a reasonable conversation with it without, you know, and it's like, you know, and I feel you, Pork Bone. I feel you're like, you know, the stuff. Is he a Destiny's Church dude? but that becomes an accusation. You know, that becomes something where we're forcing them into a box without.
I think he's talking about his comment around gay being a choice. But it's not.
But yes, but it's also imposing on the bro. I don't know if he was necessarily saying, you know, it kind of came out of nowhere, that one, but it was sort of by surprise, whether he truly believes that being gay is a choice or whether he was really just saying that, you know, it's their decision, how it is that they want to identify. I don't actually think he was saying gay is a choice. I think he was saying it's how that person wants to identify. I tend to agree with you on that. I don't think.
Yeah.
You do think that he was saying that?
No, I agree with you that I don't think he was saying, oh, you choose to be gay. I think he was just saying whatever choice you make in your life, whether it is being gay or not. Yeah. See, I just did it then. Made it sound as if I was saying being gay is a choice, but whatever decisions and choices that you make in your life and the lifestyle that you lead is that is your choice, whether it's vaccination or... Yeah. But, you know,
and so, but I guess what I'm trying to get to here is it's quite easy to kind of become inflamed by stuff quite quickly, and it's just like, and it's like there is a negative connotation towards, you know, that it's to the point where he must be in Destiny's church, and I'm just like, oh, and I understand, Porkbone, that you're probably just joking. So I don't want you, you know, I'm not having at you, bro. But it is like there is quite a bit of stuff that I do have with
that is a beef that I do have with Destiny's Church, and I've been, you know, in many ways I've gone, you know, because I know some destos, as you call them. My te atarangi kaiako was destos, and her coming out of violence and drugs, and it was through that community that she was able to find her way out. And I was like, you know, that is a real positive of that community, but you know, they are dickheads and jerks when it comes to their interpretation of the scripture. That is, you know, and I know I've interviewed Brian and Hannah on Media Take, and they say, oh, we hate the sin, not the sinner, you know. And what I found quite interesting about those two is they're kind of different in person than the personalities that they roll out. But I would say that's the same with Don Brash. You meet Don Brash in person, he's actually quite a congenial, nice kind of guy to sit and have lunch with, but his policies goddamn suck. And that's kind of what I found with Brian and Hannah Tamaki as well. That in person they were quite nice people, but their policy when it comes to ostracizing and alienating gay people, the LGBTQ community, is terrible. They still believe in, you know, pray the gay away, get fucked. It's some dumb shit. So
I remember I had weirdly was instructed to drive Titawhai Harawira to a meeting with Brian Tamaki, and so I drove her, and then I sat in the room, and she was like, but just to kind of speak to what we're doing here and the fact that you can sit down and have these conversations, she rolled up and was like, and had at them specifically about that issue. And it was like, you know, we've got whānau who are inside the gay community and are part of it and identify this way, and you're the head of this church and you're doing this. And so it was really fascinating to be sort of in the room, because the stuff that he was saying, I was like sitting in the chair, and then I actually had a friend with me as well, and she was like hard out, like didn't like them. And so they were saying stuff, and she was just like wiggling around in her chair and like was really like uncomfortable. And Brian was like calling her out on it. It was like, yeah, I can see that you don't like what I'm saying. And it was just like, but because she was just there as my friend, she wasn't allowed to say anything. But her body language was doing it all. And then it was just a really fascinating fly on the wall situation, being particularly with Titipai, being the person who was challenging him about his views. So
Yeah.
all good.
All good. Yeah, well,
All good. Hey, Porkbone, church, my bro.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dad.
yeah, I mean, I know Brian and Hun, and yeah, interesting. Interesting when you go and have a kanohi te kanohi, kind of hang out with them, you know, and it's quite different. Yeah, I kind of understand that, you know. I mean, I live in a community like that, you know, of the different whakaaro of even within our whānau, of the different consciousness, and I gotta learn to live with it, and how to deal with it, and sometimes we, you know, I find this. It's so naive within our own whānau. But we ponder ourselves through trying to deal with a different opinion, you know, but we still remain to love each other, to find a way that we, you know, in sometime we want to talk about this, yeah, what? We'll just talk about that. And yeah, it's like that, you know, and it's just
but
like...
it's the same thing when they people misinterpret you. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's not until they meet you or there's this impression of who you are and what you're about. And so whether that's through the misinformed media or, you know, just with the sound bites that they get from you through the various channels. And then and it's different to actually being...
to meeting you and then they're
with
surprised.
you face to face.
Yeah, they'd be surprised. Yeah. Oh, I'd be, you know, people were pretty straight up to me. See, I really hated you. I didn't like you. But, you know, I'd have been hanging out with you for all day, and wow, it turned my whole outlook to it. And it's like that. And I don't tend to take the word of the media or people. I like to meet people. Now, I always like that myself. I met a lot of people that they ask me, what the hell will you want to hang out with those dickheads? You know, what do you want to hang out with Bob Jones, or what do you want to hang out with Ross Morant, and all of that, you know? And, you know, we just got to learn to live with each other and find a way, and that's me. That's how I see things. That's how I do things. It may not be all, you know, all good, but that's okay. I don't have a problem with that.
Look, I really appreciated the bro coming on tonight. That's
no.
Cool. It's interesting.
We didn't talk much about art.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
I did. He sort of dropped it in there. I was like, oh, okay, we're going that way. And but it's impacted him, so obviously he wanted to talk about it. And
it's okay.
It's impacted his art.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
And it's impacted his art. So
yeah. Yep.
Ah, yes.
And no, thank you everyone for the comments though. Just heading back through, and yeah, thanks Vicky. Kia ora, thanks for coming along. Glad you're glad that you tuned in with us again. We always do try to keep the conversation broad. There was somebody who was earlier saying that they had lost their unborn child to the vaccines, and ka aroha ki a koutou mō tērā. Certainly, you know, when you have those sorts of impacts personally on you, it's going to affect the way that you view these things, and it's totally understandable. Yeah.
Aye.
Tough. I know we lost a whanaunga who went in for a simple procedure because they had an allergic reaction to the anesthesia. That's why they say that there's no small operations, because when you go under general anesthetic, there's always the risk
Yeah.
You know, that you won't come through the other side. So
Yeah. And they normally ask you, are you blah, 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 with this, you know, when they give you an injection. Are you allergic to it? No. And so
Oh, you mean your anesthesia?
Yeah,
your
yeah.
anesthetic?
Yeah. And they always ask you for it.
or to anything. You can have reactions to anything you're taking. That's what they always ask. What medication are you on? But they, you know, it's certainly not a 100% rate. Kia ora, Keisha Rose X over on YouTube. Hey, Porkbone, I agree with you with regards to, those two sides, the off-camera and the on-camera, and that's what I was saying about Don Brash. And even when you meet them in person, like Dad was saying, you know, it's good to go and to have a kanohi, get the kanohi and get your own view beyond the public. But, you know, I have met enough people who kind of, in person they're fine, but then in public, they advocate for particular policy and particular political ideologies that I cannot get with. So, you know, challenging them in person, like Titify obviously did to Brian, I think is important if you possibly have that opportunity to do that. But there can be the two faces, the public face and then the private face. Like I said, you know, they can seem quite congenial in person, but then roll out some atrocious bloody, you know, I was actually thinking about that. Who's that guy, Chantal Baker's father? He was one of the guys down in Wellington. Can't remember his name, but he was head of he was the leader of the New Zealand Conservatives for a bit. And when he was the leader, their policies regarding the treaty and the LGBTQ community were goddamn atrocious. And he seemed like a really nice guy when he was like, you know, I'm just trying to get along and but his policy stance regarding Maori and the LGBTQ,
it was pretty sketchy,
conservative Christian, just really rank. But he seemed like such a nice guy. He was getting a bit beat up because when they did the raid on one of the cop raids or something like that, they were, you know, he got attacked by some of the other groups, and he seemed like kind of like quite a, you know, oh, why are you attacking this nice guy? He's just trying his best and da-da-da-da. But I just kept looking at him thinking, your policy platform you stood on for New Zealand Conservatives was rank, bro. Like, those are the two faces. Yeah, Leighton. Yeah, nah. Oh yeah, thank you, Māori Maiden. You mediate that feed, ban them, ban the spam bots. Get that green sword out or the white sword with the green background and just, you know, impale them. Shanks.
I just want to have a shout out there to Seeker as well on Twitch. I haven't seen you on the comments before, bro. So welcome.
Yeah, Tangaroa on here on Facebook. Kia ora Tangaroa.
Manu
what happened to our old Tangaroa mate, that bloody teenager from Australia?
He's there.
Is that him? Are you sure that's the same one?
Yeah, it's the same one.
Oh.
Yeah, he's Tangaroa on Facebook and something else, I think, on Twitch.
You were our number one spammer there for a bit, old Tangaroa. You chilled out, my bro. That's all good.
Then Sam Bro showed up.
Yeah.
All good.
Haven't seen him for a couple of days.
Policy is a colonist construct. As is legalized, the legislators were bought over back in the 1800s to water down our law, LORE, and made control of tangata whenua easier. Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from on that perspective.
Yeah, I get that, but
you know, today, what do you do? How would you manage this massive human beings, millions and millions of us? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably true. You know, I mean, the idea that it's been put in place, you know, it is, yes, policy. It is a colonial construct.
Yeah.
As is legalized because it's absolutely. Because we now live in a society where we have to fucking, you know, figure this out because it's the structure that we have now.
Yeah.
It made control of tangata whenua easier. But that,
Well, that was.
I mean, it is true. It is true. Like policy and legislation is about creating a framework for control around society in general, isn't it?
Well, it's a bit like the petition for Te Reo Māori. The part of that is to acknowledge that, and putting some kōrero around to protect our interests, our reo. And we had to put it in our formula that are able that the law self protect our interests and they work in our interests and work in our interests.
Isn't tikanga a form of policy?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Tikanga is a policy framework. It's just another language.
Tikanga is that. The tikanga is based on that.
And kawa.
And the kawa is based on that. Nei te kawa. Yeah.
It was
the uruwera one, I think is about that too.
And tapu anoa, isn't that kind of like a legislative framework? I'm making shit up now. I'm just throwing that. I'm just being.
Tikanga is like a legislative framework. Tikanga is a legislative framework.
Yeah.
Tikanga and kawa.
Is a framework.
Is a legislative framework. Tapu anoa is a concept which you would use, you know, because that's basically restricted and unrestricted.
Yeah.
You know, that's what tapu anoa is about. Where you restrict things for a reason when it's tapu, and then when it's law, you unrestrict it. You know, I've heard, definitely. I've been having thoughts recently about how basically, you know, if you were to look at around the world, you know, sometimes I watch those old Viking shows, or the Roman, you know, Vikings and period pieces, and, you know, societies around the world. I've been watching some stuff on Japan too, and how different cultures and societies transitioned out of feudal systems. So you had, you know, over in England and everything as well, thanks Dad, you had feudal systems, and we were largely, I think, someone correct me if I'm completely talking shit here, a feudal system where we're talking about tribes. And then inevitably what happens when the population grows to a certain point, there is conquest, which happens within societies. You know, Māori had conquest too. If you even look at Tūhoi and the way that, or any iwi, the way that there were wars and battles inside of that feudal system, within that tribal system, that you get to a point where there's too many people and you have to transition into another kind of political system. And so you end up in kingdoms or empires or there's usually steps that societies go through as they progress through these things. And then, you know, when they got sick of kingdoms and empires, that guy Martin Luther King, where it was like, nah, there's no divine right for a ruler to rule. We need to actually set up some sort of democratic system where the people are able to have power rather than just be the peasants and the slaves with no political power. And they progress onto and they form their own little governance. And generally there's some sort of insurrection or rebellion for that to be able to happen. That happened over in France when they got rid of the royalty. It happened in Russia as well when they got rid of the Tsars and the Bolsheviks came in, and and then they have to form a parliament. And sometimes, you know, then the military can take over, what happened after the French Revolution with bloody Bonaparte. And, you know,
Fiji.
so you get to go through
Thailand.
this evolution as a culture and a society. What happened with us, though, is just suddenly the Parkers turn up and then they installed their system on where they were in terms of the evolutionary societal setup, governance and so forth. And so as Māori, we did not get to, it's kind of like going from a child, or not a child, say that we were the children, but suddenly there was this jump from, wasn't quite a feudal system. Feudal, you have like a lord of the land and everyone else, all the peasants have to think off it, but we had a tribal system. and we didn't get to integrate and evolve past that organically by our own decisions. We were suddenly had to jump.
We did. I mean, I can share with you a scenario between a battle between two people. Another iwi from Waikato, between Te Purewa and two Korero. So rather than 400 guys sort of clash and a big ding dong, so they decided that, and they lay out the second, they bring out the best fighter out of those two. So they went clashing. So they got our tipuna Te Purewa on the ground. Yeah, but Korero made a mistake because he put his head down to see he was still breathing. Bang, he got hit on the head, and he went down. But so he made the rule at the taupunum at that moment. He didn't kill him. So they acknowledge that, and for the fact that this will be, for whatever happens to you, we will come and support you, vice versa. And so all those kawatikas, in the moment of a battle, they can make a decision right there and then. You know, rather than just sending all your missiles and then you start blowing people up till you start to say, are you going to stop? Are you going to say no? You know, and that's happened right around the world. I mean, so-called democratic society are terrible. And what the Americans have done in Afghanistan and what they have done in the Middle East, you know, what they've been doing there for ever since the Second World War. And what do you call that? There was some of their ideology, their whakaaro policy, not very good.
Yeah, Western hypocrisy.
Horrendous.
There's certainly some
Not
Western
very good.
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I've been watching the World War II in colour on Netflix.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. I had no idea about the
hypocrisy.
story. Well, no, yeah, and it is a story of hypocrisy. The story of hypocrisy of the West, but to do with Japan. And I didn't know that what led to them invading Pearl Harbor and taking that action, and that they actually, after World War I, they went over and fought with the British against Germany and were key and pivotal in the Allies winning that battle over Germany within World War One. But they were not afforded. They got to go along to the treaty that they signed after that. They were they were invited there, but they weren't allowed to really have a say. And then they were not also allowed to take on their own colonies. So they were looking at the West, you know, England, France, America, who were taking over, and Holland as well, the Dutch, who were taking Philippines, you know, Portugal, Indonesia, there was Indochina at the time. So they saw all of them doing that, and they were like, well, why aren't we allowed to do that? So when it came to the Second World War, they were like, they started expanding into China, because it was that imperialist kind of thing. They were like, well, the West have showed us the way. It's kind of common global practice for people of, you know, for nations of military prowess, and Japan was at that stage, to be able to go and do that. It was conquest. And suddenly the Western people were going, well, no, you're not allowed to go and do that. We're allowed to go and do that. You aren't. And it was pretty much a racist kind of scenario of white superiority. And the Japanese got pissed off with it, and they were like, nah, we're gonna go hard. And they did go hard. And America started putting sanctions on them for their expansionism into China, and that pressure got so much because they don't have their own oil, and it was fascinating. I highly suggest you go and watch World War II in colour. Really good stories. Of course, I did notice when they were telling that story of Pearl Harbor, not once did they mention the fact that Hawaii was was, you know, the Hawaiians, not at all. It was just Pearl Harbor. It was America, and it was their base, and, you know, no talk about them actually. And the story of how Hawaii got taken. You know, they weren't telling that story. They were telling the story of World War II. But it's still a fascinating story.
Be careful about that.
Pork bone.
Be careful what you say about China. You know.
Now to China.
Pork bone agrees with you on the
Yeah, China been
Netflix,
colonized by a lot of other countries for. The first time they had independence only in 1949. And the French were there, the Portuguese were there, the Japanese were there, you know. And the Chinese, they've been sent a lot of the Chinese all around there, slave labor in the gold mining down in Dunedin. Yeah, and they had a boat there, sunk down in Hokianga Harbour. There's a lot of Chinese died around there, buried over in Rawene. You know, bit like the bro saying the virus come from the, you know, that kōrero, you know, it's not just him talking that, but there's a kōrero saying that the virus come from China, Wuhan. That's just a kōrero.
Right.
Yeah, that's a kōrero.
Oh yeah. No, that's largely been debunked. I know some people are coming on here saying it's fact, it came from the lab in Wuhan. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to figure out where that goddamn COVID bug came from. And that's the thing with conspiracy theories, is the amount of people you would have to have involved. I mean, the Australians were going hard trying to figure out, and, you know, they were blaming the Chinese. And they were trying to, you know, like trying to say that it was man-made and that it was, he sort of left for me when he said it was a bioweapon. I was like, come on, bro. I mean, you know, he's allowed his opinion.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say it's a bioweapon, you then need to stack up all the other things that go along with that. And then that just is like shit.
I'm just amazed by the Chinese practice of medicine. And, you know, all the different, I traveled to Yue Hot in the Inner Mongolia, in a plane full of runwa, you know, all the different fingers from animals and all the different barks. The plane was full of it. Yeah, but they call it the barefoot doctors. So they do practice of the traditional medicine, and they still do. And the Chinese still practice it. And then you've got the Western medicine. So they very much combine those two together. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Western medicine and their approach, you know, of prescribing antibiotics and pharmaceuticals, I don't think, you know, I think it's certainly, in my view, my limited view, I don't think it's helped. I think it's certainly an approach that plays into the hand of pharmaceutical companies, where you have to medicate to fix things that are actually half the time caused by environment, by the food you eat, by the, you know, all of these other issues, and then you medicate to, you know, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I get reflux when I drink coffee. And what do? I drink goddamn coffee and take antacid low-sec stuff so that I can drink it. That's stupid. And I do it. And I pay money to do it. And that's my choice, goddammit. Yeah, but that's just me showing myself.
Tangaroa here is asking, Matua, do you kōrero on the pie at Waikirikiri? This is your pie here, isn't it? This is where you do your kōrero?
Yeah, you need to come home, my boy, young fella. I'm not going to answer you that.
Come and find out.
Come home and te ki te wokanohi.
Oh, Māori Maiden's a bit shocked, I think. Was that about Pearl Harbor, is what you were talking about there, Māori Maiden?
Yeah, probably. You know, Māori Mermaid, go and watch it on Netflix. Honestly, easy watch and fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. The World War II story and the World War I story, I think even now, given what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, is even more pertinent, because you see all of the pressures that lead up to it.
Yeah, Russia didn't just go there and bomb.
And I don't think it's particularly pro-Western. In this documentary, it kind of, I mean, you know, it misses some things, but it's fairly even-handed. Even towards Hitler. You know.
Yeah, well, even the war now, I can't stand watching some of this new stuff because it's all propaganda. It's all the real propaganda machine are actually working really hard.
It is.
Yeah, really working hard. Fundamentally, just really working hard. They use it. That's another war itself, in the way that.
You're not surprised by that, though, are you?
Yeah,
But
I'm not
do you
surprised.
think, though,
But it's
question,
pretty
my
hard,
father,
yeah.
question here, Patai. Do you think, you know, that in terms of global stability, and I understand what you're saying, because I agree with you, it is very, very one-sided in many ways. But in terms of global stability, do you think that they could take another approach? Like,
Oh yeah. I've listened to it for a long time because many of us that understand their kind of politics can see it coming. I mean, all you got to do is watch now. Why haven't the Americans are sitting on the side? Why isn't NATO all sitting on the side? They're not actually listening, but they are. They are pumping their money in their war machine. They saying don't do this, but they're actually supplying the Ukrainian government with the war machine, with the guns. The president is saying let's arm ourselves, so they teach them how to make Molotov cocktail. They actually got so you got all this kind of propaganda stuff. I mean, the war is not a very nice thing. I'm not saying this is a nice thing at all.
no.
Yeah, not
Can
at
I?
all.
Okay, my turn. My turn. So what?
So what?
So what if they're doing that? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, what? So if we all so we've got this conflict that's happening between Ukraine and Russia, and everyone's the most that the US, let's say for example, doesn't want to put troops on the ground and fight a war with Russia. Why not? Why don't they want to do it? Why do they just want to put sanctions and put money into Ukraine for them to fight the battle? Why don't you're saying?
I'm not saying it,
Well,
but
why are they doing that? Why are they on the side?
Yeah. I mean, it's just hypocritical for them to say, they're bombing, they're bombing the shopping. I know that that whole place has been cleared. Are they saying people are still shopping in the shopping mall? That they just dropped the bomb down in the shopping mall a couple of days ago? That place all been cleared.
Right.
I mean, in the war strategy, they carpet lay, they just blow the whole place out. And because if you don't, and then you got all those guys that hide behind those buildings. So it's just a war game. If you understand war games, so that's the first thing you do is clear that whole place out before you send your troops there. And so that's the propaganda of the media that use that, there's some kids got bombed, or the shopping center being bombed. There's nobody shopping in the capital city. The whole place being cleared. Are they saying people are shopping in the shopping mall? Of course there's a place there for, if I have an army, running an army there, of course you have your people lying in all of those places.
You're talking about human shields, that kind of thing.
Yeah, right, no, that's all propaganda.
I'll tell you something that I did watch.
Yeah, I don't think he is talking about.
Okay. Something I did watch yesterday was the hearing for the Supreme Court nominee over in the States, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's the first African American woman to be appointed to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And the process she was going through was like a public job
interrogation
interview where senators, like the senator for Texas, Ted Cruz, was grilling her on critical race theory.
The book.
And
Yeah,
but I just
listened
thought,
to that.
but I was thinking, what it made me think was, because it's public, I'm watching it from down here, and you can see that within the society, there is a check and balance. You know, it's certainly not perfect, but you're talking about a society that has how many millions of people in it? And all of those states that have come together in the history, and they've got their constitution, and they've got the way that they've set their things up. To watch them go through that process where clearly there are some senators like Ted Cruz, the Republicans, who do not want her to sit there.
No.
And they think that she is going to be some sort of activist, radical Supreme Court judge who is going to be interpreting law and setting precedent in a way that should be reserved for legislators. That's pretty much what they were saying, what they were trying to get at, that she was going to be an activist judge, that she's going to set precedents like on around, abortion or whatever, and those precedents would be set at the Supreme Court, which would guide all other judgments in all of the lower courts, and largely be writing legislation. But that's the legislator's job in Congress. But I just thought it was interesting that America actually has that balance of power. I thought it was quite a reasonable way. It impressed me, I should say, because she was you look at her and the answers that she gave to these senators, and she was incredible. Like you could tell her intellect, her character. She was sharp. She was just like, she couldn't help but pull certain faces when like some senators just, who are just clearly morons. But when I look at that system that is attempting, even as flawed as it is, to try to find a better way forward, because this is the incremental policy development that I'm talking about. Having that representation of a black woman, African American woman, sit on the Supreme Court, there will be change. There will be those incremental shifts. And when I look at that compared to Russia, this is just, I'm just saying, when I think of Vadim, what's his name? By Putin. He ain't having none of that.
Vladimir. He ain't having none of that in his. I mean, but I guess I got to be careful about heading into dad's camp in this one, because it's like, is that
don't gang up on me.
He's kind of. Well, he's quite, Putin is pretty unapologetic about it, right? He's just like out there, and there's, but there's a reason why it's significant that there is a African American woman about to be on the Supreme Court, or is being, put up. It's because of how broken that system is that's doing it at the moment, the senators, the state system, the way that it's just a complete. I mean,
the fact that Ted Cruz
and it was evident through the.
I mean, they don't even talk about the indigenous people of America, the Anishinaabe, the Mohawks, And
that's right. There's that. Yeah,
and
that's
all
exactly
of that.
right.
I haven't heard anybody talk about the indigenous people in America.
Oh,
Well,
actually,
I
no,
mean,
that
and it's
came
not even
before the
like-
Supreme Court last year. I've got to say, there was a huge case that came before the Supreme Court to do with, that's a fascinating, it's called, I'll bring it next week on Monday.
Oh, no, cool.
They won in the Supreme Court. It actually came from a murder case, basically, where this guy got murdered and he dropped in a ditch. And the defense used the argument that around jurisdiction, that he got done for murder, the guy got done for murder, and his defense used the argument that because he was in a ditch, that the land, it was at a certain depth, that the land sitting underneath it was actually reservation land.
Yeah.
And it opened this huge can of worms where basically, oh gosh, I can't remember the details now. This really big state, the majority of it has actually come now underneath the indigenous peoples of that land, but I can't remember the names and it's completely gone out of my head. But that was put through the Supreme Court, and they did win. So there is a process there. As faulty as it is, and as flawed as it is, and as how many terrible players like Ted Cruz there are within that system, they have to deal with the Ted Cruzes because they are there.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you do? I don't know. How do you have a fair system? But then I
Okay,
look across
questions
to...
for...
What's that?
Oh no, carry on.
Anyway, then I look, yeah, like you said, Putin is very much in control. He's unabashedly who he is. Same with Xi Jinping over in China.
Yeah.
You know, they very much are, they can't, you know, they are dictators. They are autocratic. They don't have anyone else having any other say. I know, Dad, you made the argument before, there's 1 billion people in China, so, you know, you got to be a bit brutal about that. But I don't know, you know, when I watched the hearing around the Supreme Court nominee, I was kind of impressed. I was impressed by the mechanism in place to try to balance things out. I think it's a genuine attempt in really difficult situations. I don't have any better idea on how to govern it other than, you know, you appoint a dictator. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
No, I
I'm
like
too
the
dumb.
idea.
You like the idea
that's
of a
our
dictator?
time, you fellas. That's our time, you fellas. So,
Okay.
just like to thank everyone that was out there. Hey Jade, I just see you popped up in on YouTube. So welcome to the stream. We stream on Mondays and Thursdays. We didn't actually stream last Monday. We were feeling a bit under the weather, but usually Mondays and Thursdays.
Thursday.
So from 6 to 8. So if you're around, you can come in and join us earlier. That'll be good to see you.
As we
Thanks to
talk
everyone
over
else
jazzy music.
that's been in the comments and providing us with lots of good kōrero and yeah. So that's you, Dad.
Yeah. Kia ora hoa ma, nā mihi kia kōtou. Pō Māori e, kia paita kōtou moi. Friday tomorrow, last day of the Pākehā Day, wiki. Te mutu no te wiki Pākehā. Kia ora kōtou.